welcome to Film Sack and a roundtable episode of said show. I'm Scott Johnson with Randy and Brian and Brian. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
We're all here. We're going to talk about a thing. We're going to go around the table. What does it mean? Well, probably one of us is out of town, but we make sure you guys have content every time that happens. And this week, it's all about the comedies. Yeah, that's right. Movies we don't normally sack on the show. So we're going to talk a little bit about what makes a good one. Maybe we're going to get a glimpse at how our tastes differ here on the show. Maybe, I don't know. We don't rehearse these things, so we don't know what's going to be said.
Right. Well, and that right there, like what even is your taste when it comes to comedies? Are we all made of what we initially saw as children that made us laugh? Like, is obviously everybody evolves, but like, don't you still have a comedy?
Yeah, all raunchy comedies.
Do you still have a connection to those like origins of comedy in your experience?
Well, that's a really good question because I don't. This is funny. I don't know why this is, but I don't seek them out like I used to. But when I was younger, if something was funny coming to theaters, I was all in. It's like, let's go. We got to see something funny.
That was our usual Friday night pick was whatever comedy was coming out, or it was comedies and thrillers, and we'd gravitate towards those two things.
So are you, because now I'm so much less that. Are you guys less that too? Because I just don't, most of them don't interest me until somebody tells me how great it is. Like
it's really got to be a specific kind of comedy, because for a while there in the 90s, it was stuff like My Best Friend's Wedding and things like that were like more rom-com as opposed to straight up comedies, fewer Zucker Brothers kinds of things, and
more rom, less calm. Yeah,
so more rom, less calm. Then. And that's when How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or Failure to Launch or whatever. And it's like, they're okay, but they're not for me. And I'm definitely more hesitant on what
I think the first time I really remember looking at a comedy and thinking I'm watching a comedy was the Police Academy series. I don't think before then, I liked funny things, but I didn't go, I'm intentionally watching a comedy movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me throw you my story and then see if it changes yours. So like so many people, I grew up watching Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Right.
And I obviously it shapes you as far as comedy goes. There's a certain pacing and a certain patter in Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Right.
And then when I was in high school, I got my first girlfriend. And she was absolutely in love with the Marx Brothers movies.
Oh, man.
Wow.
And
you were dating a woman who was 45?
A 50-year-old? It's a 50-year-old?
She was actually a year younger than me. And she, I had gotten the ability to drive a car. And so she wanted me to take her around to the different Blockbusters in the area and see if we could find all the Marx Brothers movies. And we did. We had to go to like 4 different Blockbusters and we found all the Marx Brothers movies. And then I had my 2 VCR set up at home and I put them all onto one tape.
That's why she wanted you. She wanted you for your dual deck VCR.
But watching all the Marx Brothers movies over and over made me realize, actually Bugs Bunny was based on this, and like there's like a source here, and also no one could ever hit that high. Like when you're watching the Marx Brothers movies, you're watching the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Are you though? I mean,
yes.
I'm not
absolutely.
saying for the time. Absolutely, I agree with that. But I watch those now, and I'm bored out of my mind. I don't find them funny. I never did. Even as a kid, I didn't find them that funny. If I'd see reruns, I sometimes thought Laurel and Hardy were funny.
Yeah.
Three Stooges.
So that's why we're having this discussion, because it hits everybody differently, even when you might want to point at something and say, well, that is objectively S tier, right? Like it's going to hit everybody differently because you have different childhood experiences. So mine just happened to be that I had seen every Bugs Bunny 100 times, and then I watched the Marx Brothers and was like, oh wow, this is great.
Next level.
Right? But you're having a different experience as a kid, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, back to the cartoons for a second. There's a staying power for some of it, not all of it, but some of it. So if I watch something like, I don't know, certain Looney Tunes hold up in a way that will just be all-time classics, and they make me laugh no matter what. It's usually Chuck Jones directed, but not always. And then when it comes to Tex Avery and his work with either Droopy or any of the stuff he did, that stuff still makes me laugh out loud like today. It's very funny to me, some of it. that's hard to say about most of what I thought was funny as a kid. Brian brought up Police Academy movies. I don't think those are very funny now.
No.
When we were kids, it was funny as hell, partly because they were dirty and a little bit forbidden.
Yeah,
and it was
like the Porky's thing, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because it was so off, away
that's
from
right.
what we were allowed to watch.
Yeah. And that's why raunch comedy kind of usually lives in that area between growing up, like right when you're almost an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. In a lot of ways, that had to make a comeback because it was based on that stuff, right? It was like
what's the movie where Kim Cattrall orgasms in the dirty clothes?
Oh, geez.
Mannequin?
Is it Fast Times? Fast Times at Richmond High?
Was it?
No, she wasn't in that. Kim Cattrall.
I don't know. I don't know what this is.
They get her in the boys' locker room, and
Sex
the
and the
smell
City.
of all the jocks makes her orgasm.
Oh my Lord.
Boys? I
Oh
don't know.
yeah, that was Porky's, wasn't it?
Was that Porky's?
That's
I
a
don't know.
horrifying concept.
Obviously.
How have I blocked that out? I've seen Porky's. That's horrible. Ugh.
But like I will bet you if you'd showed that to me when I was 15, I would have thought it was hilarious.
Of
and now I
course,
think
yeah.
it's terrible.
Yeah. Like American Pie for a different generation.
Right.
It was probably really, really funny at the time to go, he put his wiener in a pie. Now I just kind of go, okay. It's just kind of gross.
Now nobody can eat that pie is what I'm thinking.
Well,
Yeah.
America, but the good thing about those kind of comedies,
Well, somebody think of the pie. Sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
somebody think of the pie. So un-American. I think about those kind of comedies is that they usually introduce a large ensemble cast, and so
Yeah.
you get all these people that kind of just kind of work their way through other movies and other comedies.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a touch point right there. Is American Pie really did like bring the comedy back to the theater, or
Yeah.
a certain kind anyway.
Yeah. And it well, yeah, I think that's a great early example of it. Certainly those not leaving Las Vegas, but, the Hangovers movies.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Those are a big example of that, and they still exist today, of course, but I'm not nearly as driven by any of that. And I guess, it's age. You just don't, you're not.
Okay, so that's actually a question. Is comedy, the movie genre in general, is it really only for young adults? Like, really, like, do you just age out of loving?
I think rom-coms become a little more important. It's going to be all situational. Like the absurd and random thing makes
Makes it seem fresh too, right? Like
Yeah,
it seems
it-
new when you do that.
Yeah, and it's also like it's chaotic, and that really appeals to younger
Like
people.
the new movie currently in theaters just opened, Friendship, with Tim Robertson and Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, Tim Robinson, Paul Rudd. Yeah, which looks really
Yeah,
good.
that looks great. And that looks like the kind of comedy I want to see. It is called,
cringe.
cringy and also just different and not exactly just slapstick riot's
make
not
somebody-
interesting to me. You know?
Yeah.
No,
If you
I
can
don't
make
want
people
I don't
feel
want things
uncomfortable.
zany.
Yeah. No zany.
But like, if you do kind of age out of appreciation, then that would answer the question: why don't comedies win Oscars? Because the Oscar voters are all a bunch of old men, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they loved comedies once upon a time, but they just don't get it anymore.
Comedy doesn't get respect that it should,
Right.
regardless.
And I think that's also it, right? Like it's you look at the slate of movies, and no matter how good a Barbie might be or something else that's like really not just funny, but also kind of breaking conventions, just the inherent fact that it's a comedy makes the Academy say, yeah, well, disregard that one. What are the other 9?
But
Give me your best memory of going to see comedy movies like as a young adult. Like, because for me, going to see Ace Ventura and then The Mask were like seminal moments. Like,
they were
solidified for me what comedies were supposed to be.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure at the University Hills Twin.
Oh, that is awesome.
Not knowing the only thing I'd seen, I think we've mentioned this either pre-show before our last episode, but the only thing I'd seen was that 1 hour really kind of raunchy Pee Wee Herman special where they're using the shoe mirrors to look up Miss Yvonne's dress and stuff like that. And this had the entire, like the 2 movies I remember seeing at the University Hills Theater were Breakfast Club and Pee Wee's Big Adventure, both classics and both I think one of those even was radio station giveaway tickets that I had gotten. And
I heard a critic call Pee-wee's Big Adventure Tim Burton's best movie, and I just think that's hilarious. That is an amazing observation.
That was his first big movie, though.
It really was, yeah.
I think so.
But the whole theater laughing, and me included, went there with my Uncle George. It was just such a great time, and that's like I can visualize even where in the theater I'm sitting for both of those movies.
I think for me, it's Airplane.
Interesting.
I didn't see it in theaters, but I saw it many, many, many times. Wore out VHS tapes of that movie. Mm-hmm. And to me, it may have set the tone for me because it was weird and different. Mm-hmm. So the jokes were obvious, but they were done in such a way that nobody had done stuff like that. These Zucker movies were crazy. And I think it set the tone for me because then I had expectations for more than just your Caddyshack or Cannonball Runs where it's just wacky, zany, or dirty. Mm-hmm. It needed to have an angle, some substance to it. Either like that's a real commit to the bit kind of thing. Airplane, yeah. You look at the difference between that and Caddyshack or the Cannonball Run stuff is not just committing to the bit, but committing to the bit solidly for the whole film instead of being like, all right, the first 2 acts are going to be wacky, zany, but we're really going to have some heart in the third where Burt Reynolds really figures out who he is with Dom DeLuise and blah, blah, blah. Like Airplane stays as nuts for the entire 90 minutes, 100 minutes, or whatever it is.
Yes. And there again, that S tier has like Naked Gun in it. Mm-hmm. And there's something about those movies where, and the Marx Brothers did this so well. It's solid jokes. It really it's really amazing that there is a story, right? That Naked Gun has a plot because it's just solid jokes from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what age group were you saying? Can I get the question again? Because you said a young adult. Do you mean
when you were a young adult, you saw a comedy or two that really kind of like solidified in your mind, oh, this is the pinnacle for me of what's funny. And I'm curious about what that is. Like we've talked about The Burbs for you a lot. And I'm just curious if that was that it, or was there
So in high school, the things that appeal to me were like The Burbs and then Ghostbusters. I mean, it's what horror comedy was defining for me for a really long time. I mean, if you had horror and comedy in it, Simon.
Yeah, Ghostbusters is such a good pull on that because because again, you're doing something where it's funny, but it isn't just to be funny. There's heart, there's characters you care about, there's progression, there's moments of real drama and excitement and a little bit of horror. And that to me is what I was way more into that and not into, hey, you want to go watch a wacky poke in the eye, kind of kick in the butt.
Like I looked at like all the SNL actors and comedians from the movies they were making is kind of like they were like the seniors, and I was watching them do all the amazing stuff, and that's how Ghostbusters felt to me. It's like, oh, I like comedy, and I feel like these guys are like the senior level of that. Not old, just right on the precipice of complete adulthood.
Yeah.
Do you think that you need to have seen a bunch of movies to appreciate a parody comedy? Like,
like Spaceballs,
absolutely.
Like Spaceballs.
Airplane is a good example of that because for a kid seeing Airplane, you'll get maybe a good 50% of the jokes, and then there's the things where it's like making fun of some other adult movie
disaster movies.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah, if you hadn't seen Airport 77 or Towering Inferno or things like that, you might not get what Airplane is trying to do.
And I think Airplane wasn't it shot as a Airport 77 like a direct parody?
Yeah.
Which is a thing I hadn't seen at the time, so I didn't really understand it. But if you understand disaster movies, then Airplane is immediately accessible, no matter who you are.
But let's pull on that thread. I think you would love Austin Powers if you had not seen any of the movies that it's parodying.
No, and I'm not saying you wouldn't love it. I'm saying you wouldn't get all the jokes in it.
Yeah.
Right? Like as a kid, you might not get the Airport 77 parody of it, but it's still on its own a very funny film for a kid, and you'll get about 50% of the jokes.
I'm glad that you brought that example up, Randy, because it's a perfect example of one that shouldn't work for me, but does, because it is so over the top. Austin Powers. But Mike Myers is so damned talented at what he's doing with those characters across the board that it works for me. Like that's funny to me still to this day.
And comedy is really about the people who are telling the jokes.
It hinges on them. It really does. It doesn't even hinge on the writing so much. Like you can have great writing, but if you're not putting it through the right mouths, I think that comedy might not be good or as good.
I have a history with the Wayans brothers movies. Like I love them all somehow. And the best of their parody movies is Scary Movie.
Yeah. And when they brought that stuff back, it's so good.
Yeah, Marlon Wayans and Sean Wayans can do no wrong for me. And so like there's a thing about them. They like I see them and I'm primed to laugh. They are funny. And it's not so much about the movie itself, like the plot and the the other characters and so forth. It's like like one of my favorite comedies of all time is Tropic Thunder. And it's not like Ben Stiller, like another history, like Ben Stiller movies, funny. I really think they're funny, but specifically what Jack Black does in that movie, specifically what Robert Downey Jr. does in that movie, it's the people that I think are the key.
Did you hear
backtrack to your take on white chicks? I'm just curious. You said they could do no wrong, and I'm like,
they can't. They can do no
wrong.
You
even enjoy white chicks? Okay, all right.
I do.
Nothing wrong with that.
White Chicks is hilarious. And you know what's weird? White Chicks is one of the came up when we were doing that list of we were trying to talk about movies that were severely underrated on Rotten Tomatoes. White Chicks is right now at 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, but on Google it's at 91%.
Really?
And it's because these guys know how to make good comedy.
I've never seen it, so I can't really, I can't rip on it too hard. But
White Chicks,
there is a reason you didn't.
I've seen.
Yeah, there is a reason you didn't go.
I want you to know, White Chicks gave us Terry Crews. Terry Crews is. Like this is
we would have gotten Terry Crews one way or another.
I promise you.
I mean, it's easy to say. I agree. Maybe his moment of like, Terry Crews, he can do comedy. But I shouldn't talk either because I've not seen White Chicks either. I don't know what's going on in there. I just know
it's a chance.
A couple of Black
White
Brothers
Chicks a chance. That's what I'm always saying.
I will watch. I will promise you, I will watch White Chicks in the next 6 months.
Oh my Lord!
I'll make that commitment to you right now.
That's really great.
That's a commitment. Wow.
Can we go back to Tropic Thunder for one quick second? There's just some news around Tropic Thunder. The news rolling around is that Tom Cruise, who is now done with his Christopher McQuarrie, working together
Mission
on their project, they are serious about this. They want to go make a spin-off standalone film for the character Les Grossman, the character that Cruise played in Tropic Thunder, where he does that funny dance. He wants a whole movie. They both are serious about this. They want to make an entire movie about that character.
I just don't know.
I'm into it, dude. I'm into it.
It's fun for a bit, but I don't know.
Well,
it was in Tropic Thunder. It was the perfect amount.
They seem to think it's like the best idea ever. So
and there was a really good interview with Ben Stiller where he talked about teaming up with Justin Theroux to make that movie, and how they basically had Tom Cruise insert himself into the movie. Like they had gotten to know him, but they hadn't really planned on this character. And that's what, that's where comedy movies can be real magic. You can have things that aren't necessarily scripted out long in advance that just come together and are so freaking funny.
Yeah. That's one of those moments. That's one of those characters. Because you're right. We barely got him. And Dunaway, you're right. It's like a cartoon. But I would point to like Letterkenny and the character of Shoresy.
Yes.
And Shoresy getting a spin-off series that is somehow better than Letterkenny. And he's the most one-off nothing in Letterkenny. But he's this amazing basis of a whole new series. And Shoresy's a fantastic spin-out. So I'm not saying they can do the same here, because who knows if they really can. But that GIF I put in Discord should make you excited. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing Tom Cruise has ever done outside of, just him saying, I'll go do your goofy thing and shave my head and act like an ass. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so great. And that dance, what even is that dance?
But like I say, Ben Stiller claims that Tom Cruise wrote the character. Tom Cruise invented the character and brought it to their film. And like, it's just wild, because like I say, usually you're counting on comedic minded people to do comedy things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe he's funnier than we know. We don't know.
On the subject of Ben Stiller, and you'd ask what, like, as a young adult, like once I got out of college, and I don't want to talk about this, but Monty Python in college. Anyway, back onto the thing I was wanting to say. There's something about Mary once I had gotten out of college.
Sperm hair.
That was that right? My God, I saw that in the theater. I remember being there. I remember that whole experience, and just
it was a big deal.
It floored me.
Yeah, it was a huge hit. Plus, the Farrellys, all their I loved what was the Milkman one, or the Milkman one? Sorry, the bowling one with Woody and
Kingpin.
Kingpin. I love Kingpin. Kingpin still grosses me out. Kingpin still makes me laugh. Stinkpin.
I mean, there's some. I don't know how you got milk out of that, or I can't remember.
And they're so like some of those jokes are dumb. They're so dumb.
Yeah,
right.
But in the right hands, sometimes this stuff works.
What do we say, Farrelly Brothers movie now? If they were to announce a new Farrelly Brothers movie, because it feels like it's been a while, right?
Has been a while. Yeah. Have we not? We did Kingpin, didn't we? Or no? Did we not do Kingpin?
No, we didn't.
I don't think so.
Kingpin?
Not Kingpin.
Can I turn the tables on Randy? Because I know Randy kind of like this is his subject. Would you be okay if I turn the tables on you real quick?
Do it.
Because you said Marx Brothers, right? You did that viewing. Yeah. So sometimes you go back and it's comedies that are outside of your age group or whatever, and you may explore those things. Like I went back in Monty Python. I didn't know anything about Monty Python in high school, or I'd heard people talk about it, but it wasn't until after when I got into college, which I think is where a lot of people are introduced to Monty Python. I went back and watched all of that stuff. It was a totally different comedy scene than anything I was used to. How about you? Did you do any of that kind of stuff in college?
So yeah, I ran a movie marathon every year in college that was called the Monty Python-a-thon. And I inherited it from another guy who was leaving that college, and I came into a bunch of VHS tapes of everything that Monty Python ever did, and then we went into the biology auditorium and projected all this Monty Python for 24 hours straight.
Right.
And that was another one of those, this is the pinnacle of comedy moments for me. Like, I really internalized how Monty Python works.
Yeah.
But I feel very lucky. I haven't outgrown it. Like in all these years,
still amazing.
I still I was just thinking, were there comedies in 2024? Yes, there were. I really enjoyed The Fall Guy. I really enjoyed Fly Me to the Moon. There are comedies still, and I watch every episode of Saturday Night Live every time there's a new episode I've probably watched every episode of Saturday Night Live for 38 years now.
Oh, wow.
And I never get old. It never gets it actually, Saturday Night Live is getting way younger as I get older, and I'm still loving it.
It's like sports. It's like sports. You watch football and you go, oh my gosh, these are kids now on the field.
Yeah.
So weird. But
am I right about the shared experience with Monty Python?
I think so.
Do that in college?
That's got to be the most
little hit.
That's got to be the most universal comedy origin story for a lot of people aged 35 to 55 there. And if you're in that range, you virtually memorized Holy Grail.
Yeah.
And and this stuff's still great. That stuff's still great. My kids love it. My daughter loves Monty Python. Any chance we get, we'll watch it. It holds up. And it's because again, I think this is just reinforcing what I said earlier. If you build something around comedy that is a little unconventional and different, I'm more in than if it's just funny,
Get it?
Yeah, doesn't work for me.
I've brought it up several times. There was a movie last year called Thelma, and it's not a slapstick comedy, right?
No,
but
it's the June Squibb thing, right?
Yeah, it's funny. There's something deeply funny about it.
Still haven't seen it,
it's just a reminder that it's got Parker Posey and Clark Gregg, and you're just like, these are people who are being asked to look a little weird, but just like the overall concept.
Could you please look a little weird?
The overall concept of an old woman who decides to get back at a telephone scammer is just amazing. Apparently comedy will never end. We'll always have this.
I think there's a little bit of it's like irreverence for establishment. That kind of, I think that's the reason why comedy shifts so much, because the powers that be is also constantly shifting and snubbing the powers that be and releasing the shackles of what keeps us in our our grooves or whatever. I think that's like at the heart of comedy, and it's going to change.
Yeah.
By the way, there were only 5 Marx Brothers movies, which just still always blows my mind.
That's wild. I would have thought there'd be more than that.
Yeah, and they made them all in a period of 4 years.
I mean, there was a lot of
movies.
TV things. Like, I know they were on game shows and crap, but as far as like films,
But they made Coconuts, Animal Crackers, Monkey Business, Horse Feathers, and Duck Soup. Duck Soup is their magnum opus.
Yeah, Duck Soup is, as much as I say their comedy's not for me, Duck Soup's pretty damn good. Yeah, it's a great movie.
What about Night at the Opera, Day at the Races? The two
not including all 4 Marx Brothers.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so when there were subsets.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know they did that. I thought they were all together.
A thing for like this really stuck on me because I was a pianist, and Harpo Marx is a freaking musical genius.
Yeah.
And so like there's other things there. And I feel like that's really true for most people. You have some like you're a football player, so you watch sports comedies, maybe, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, we haven't even got close to naming all the comedy stuff, man.
Like, Dunaway typing to let us know we're almost out of time.
Yeah, we're almost out of time.
The keyboard noise.
I was wanting to say something, and then I was
those
like,
brown cherry switches, man.
Those are sweet.
Pretty good. Yeah, no, there's obviously it's a much deeper well than we can go into in a single episode of this. But
what's the pinnacle like time frame for you? Like, I just want to like ask each of you, where does comedy really hit its stride in your experience?
Oh gosh, that's such a great question.
In our life, right?
Yeah,
man, 80s for me. It's just such, like, all the ones I can think of that I love the most are either 80s or really early 90s, and I'm gonna name some names. You're gonna tell me, nope, Brian, those are mid or late 90s. But Fish Called Wanda, Groundhog Day, Raising Arizona.
Yeah, that's a great. You know what? The 80s had even the stuff. How do I put this? It's not even that it was all pure comedy stuff. Everything you named, for example, they're not pure comedies. They're they're funny movies that are about other things. And I agree. I think I agree with the same time frame. Dunaway,
I'm going to say it kind of bleeds more into those that seem like such classics, but I think a lot of the other comedies I felt like were mine, and not because I went with a group or whatever. I watched Zoolander and Something About Mary, a lot of Ben Stiller movies and comedies that just
in the 90s
touched me. Because I felt like I was watching them independent of my peer group. I didn't feel like
I mentioned Jim Carrey movies. The 90s ones are the best ones.
Yeah,
I think I think kind of ironically though, and I don't mean sitcoms. I think that modern, even in the streaming area, modern television that is multiple episodes of comedies, those are better for comedy. Like a 2-hour movie doesn't always do it for me for some reason. Like if you give me an 8-episode series that's funny, I'm way more into that. Like I feel like it's evolved that's where the funny stuff is.
Are English people funnier to us sometimes? Like Shaun of the Dead,
always
like that horror comedy.
That's interesting. You bring up Shaun of the Dead because I want to stand for the 2000s as the decade of comedy.
I love it. All over the board to represent.
And again, it's about the people. Like Shaun of the Dead, you got your Edgar Wright really nailing it in the 2000s. You have the whole Seth Rogen troupe. With like things like Pineapple Express in the 2000s. You have Owen Wilson and what's his name? Wedding Crashers. Luke
Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn, thank you. Like you have all of these groups of amazing people coming around. Ryan Reynolds comes out of the 2000s.
Never even talked about Christopher Guest and his whole troupe.
Shit, I love those. Yeah.
Part 2, we're gonna need a comedy part 2.
I know, loving it.
Yeah, it's great.
I just there's something happened in the 2000s, and I realize it's about standing on the shoulders of giants. So like you might say, well, the giants were in the 80s. Yes, but there are people who are always apparently going to be able to stand on those shoulders and make even better stuff. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler is a 2000s thing.
Yeah. We even talk about Will Ferrell movies make me laugh. There's a ton of stuff in between, but it's now your job at home to pipe in and tell us your favorites.
tell us and make sure and include the first comedy film you remember seeing in the theater and laughing.
Yeah.
Right. Like it really formed your thoughts about comedy.
Yeah, we would love to hear that. Please do get your info in here, filmsack@gmail.com. And if you would rather send us a voicemail and or text, you can do that at voicecast.app/filmsack. That'll do it for us. Thanks for listening to this episode. Don't forget to tune in next week for
Starsky and Hutch.
Starsky and Hutch. Speaking of Ben Stiller,
comedy.
yeah,
Owen.
that's right. We're going to prove this out next week. For me, for Brian, and for Randy.
Made you laugh.
We'll see you next time.